I've played a lot of Destiny. Over 1,000 hours, 600 of which are on characters that I have since deleted. With that much time under my belt, I think it's safe to say I have plenty of experience in all aspects of this game. So take that into consideration when I say that Destiny is a deeply flawed and even a truly terrible game at times. I was never blind to its many issues, and I've spent many hours complaining with my friends about some of the more egregious aspects of its design, while we were all playing it day in and day out, of course. But somehow, Destiny kept me enthralled from almost the absolute beginning, all the way into my slow disinterest, as new DLC and eventually a new game got released without fixing any of the problems I had, and even exacerbating some of the worst aspects of Destiny in my opinion. But I didn't and still don't really care about any of the myriad negatives Destiny has to its name, because there's something magical about the opening hours of Destiny that got me so invested in it that none of the problems ever mattered. And the precise moment that hooked me on Destiny, the one that was enough to keep me going for another 1,000 hours, is what I want to talk about today. And while technically I'm going to be spoiling the first quarter of the main campaign for Destiny in this video, as many people have noted in the past, Destiny doesn't so much have a story as it has a set of events linked together by Nolan North in tiny robot form opening doors for your character. So I doubt the narrative experience will be spoiled for you if you keep watching. The moment that got me hooked comes right at the end of The Last Array, the final story mission taking place on Earth. It's a well-designed mission from a technical perspective, as are the other 4 missions on Earth that act as your introduction to this world, actually. But crucially, it's also well-designed from an emotional perspective. Put another way, it gets you to buy into the fantasy of Destiny. And buying into the fantasy is the most important step in forgiving its flaws. But before we can dissect the mission to see how it establishes that fantasy, let's put it in context. Bungie, the company that developed Destiny, all of its DLC, its sequel Destiny 2, and all of its DLC, was previously most well known for their work on the Halo franchise in a partnership with Microsoft. Bungie created Halo Combat Evolved, Halo 2, and Halo 3 before splitting from Microsoft to become an independent company. They went on to create Halo ODST and Halo Reach for Microsoft before passing on the Halo franchise to 343 Industries and signing a 10-year publishing deal with Activision. Under Activision, Bungie created the Destiny franchise. But the development of Destiny was apparently messy, to say the least. Now, take this with a grain of salt, because it's based in part on speculation and observation, rather than hard facts, but for me at least, there's enough evidence to support the idea that something went wrong during the development of Destiny. Destiny launched with a bit of a flop. A mess of a story, content that was shown or talked about pre-launch that was entirely absent in the released product, and a handful of major issues with the core gameplay cycle that made it unrewarding to play. Apparently this was due to meddling from the higher-ups, but whatever the cause, the effect was a massive number of veteran Bungie employees leaving the studio either during or directly after the development of Destiny, and a legion of underwhelmed fans. Getting into the game itself, in Destiny you're what's called a Guardian, basically a dead person with space magic from the giant ball in the sky. You're resurrected by mini-robot Nolan North, or mini-robot Peter Dinklage pre the Taken King expansion, and told to go kill a bunch of aliens because they're trying to kill you first. Also, Skydad is asleep because he protected us from evil and it tired him out. And humans/blue humans/full-size robots all live in one city directly under him because it's too dangerous to go outside. You start off your time in Destiny protecting Earth from the alien invaders. But that's a task too big to accomplish all at once, so you have to start small. First, you go kill a scavenger alien because he's got a piece of tech that you need to fix your spaceship. Then, you go investigate a strange signal that's been playing classical music. You kill some more scavenger aliens who are trying to decode the signal, and you find out a big ol' super AI that used to protect Earth, who has been mysteriously MIA for a long time, was the one who sent it out. Later, you find out some crazy magic bone aliens who live on the moon have started a secondary invasion of Earth, so you kill some of them and escape back to your home base. Finally, you go to an old defunct array that lets Earth communicate with other colonies of humans/blue humans/full-size robots. You attempt to get it running again, but are assaulted by both the scavenger aliens and the magic bone aliens while you defend the array. After killing them and rebooting the array, your mini-robot pal tells you that there are other defense systems out in the solar system that could help, but he doesn't know how many because the super AI from earlier is controlling it. Oh, by the way, the super AI is named Rasputin, and I'm kinda torn between laughing at the reference and thinking it's too on the nose for the situation to name a human-created but ultimately foreign intelligence wielding immense power with no obvious source who is supposed to help us but is working their own agenda and survived attempted assassination, after a Siberian monk attending the Russian Tsar who wielded substantial influence and was known as a mystic and healer for the Tsar's family, but was ultimately out for himself and survived attempted assassination. Putting the lack of subtlety in naming aside, however, the Earth missions paint a picture of an underdog crusader/bounty hunter fighting the good fight wherever they can against forces far greater than they. It makes it seem like every victory needs to be cherished, and the game heavily reinforces this feeling of simultaneously beating your enemies but knowing you've still got a ways to go with an incredible soundtrack that's equal parts heroic, triumphant, and fear-inducing. The final section of The Last Array, the part where you're defending the array, gradually scales up the difficulty of the enemies you fight. First you encounter the same enemies you've already spent 3 other missions fighting, in an offensive storming of the base that should be familiar to you by now. Then you have a much more defensive encounters with enemies you've only seen briefly once before. Eventually the game throws a couple of new enemy types at you. These ones have more health than average enemies and wield stronger weapons than what you've come across up until now. And finally, after defeating the last of them, you're hit with that triumphant part of the score as you walk back to your mini-robot friend in success.
This This array is controlled by the last warmind, Rasputin.
The escalation of power and change from the type of fight you're familiar with to a new kind of fight really sells the idea that there are much bigger threats out there, but given enough time, you'll be able to defeat all of them. This section does an incredible job of empowering the player to feel like a hero. It does such a good job that it convinced me to sit through the declining quality of the rest of the story, on just the hope that I'd get to feel the same powerful feeling of heroics that I got at the end of Destiny's first act. And while it gets close at times, particularly in the higher end activities, there hasn't really been a mission that recaptures that feeling of being an underdog defeating someone much stronger than yourself in the rest of the franchise. Well, not in a way that was believable and without making the entire fight patently ridiculous anyway. Despite how often I feel as though Destiny has failed to live up to its few moments of greatness, I still hope it can eventually redeem itself. And while I've put down the series for now, all it would take to get me back on board is for Bungie to prove that they can deliver on the excellent premises and intriguing world without screwing up some crucial aspect of the design. Maybe they never will due to management and rush deadlines, but they've proven to me that given the right circumstances, they can produce excellent experiences. It's important to remember that they are indeed capable of both incredible highs and depressing lows when it comes to design and storytelling. I don't think any DLC expansion or even a new game in the franchise can single-handedly fix all the problems, but Destiny is supposed to be a 10-year project and we're only heading into year 5. So at the very least I'm hopeful for a return to form at some point.